Non-linear causality, for example, is when you do one good thing and then another good thing happens to you. So you go feed the birds and somebody gives you a job. There's no apparent direct relation between the two, even though from a higher perspective, from the field's perspective, um, there's a correspondence there. Imagine seeing a race between a turtle and a car where the turtle gets a 1 hour head start, or say a 10-kilometer head start, okay? But the whole race is 100 kilometers. And you already know who's going to win. The car's going to win because the turtle is very slow. But if you take snapshots of the race in the first hour, it's going to look as if the turtle is faster than the car. Why? Because you don't have the whole movie. You don't see the big picture. You just see specific items and specific incidents rather than the movie as a whole. And that's what this is about. It's about seeing the bigger picture, gaining a bird's eye view by which you might sometimes see that even though something you do does not have an instant gain, it might have a long-term gain. Let's say you choose to do the right thing instead of the expedient thing. That's the way we're often tested. Is he going to do what's expedient and what gives him quick gain, or is he going to do the right thing? And you'll see, if you see the bigger picture, that doing the right thing may be painful or hard or difficult just from looking at the snapshot, but in seeing the entire movie, you'll see that doing the right thing always leads to more good and more right for others and yourself. It's only a matter of time until all the bad deeds you did will come back to you. This is called cause and effect, or karma, or the law of attraction, or in some religions, judgment. Okay, but in this case, the cause and the effect may be years apart. You never know, because consciousness, as well as the universe, they don't operate in linear time. The mind does, but consciousness does not. So 10 years or 1 minute don't make much difference to consciousness, which is why it's always so ridiculous when people ask me, how much time is it going to take until this or this manifests or does not manifest? It's a ridiculous question. It's way beside the point of creating your reality with consciousness. So it's often asked what the cause of something is. Okay? When somebody's sick, we ask, what caused his sickness, as if it were only one cause, one linear, direct relation and cause, rather than a correspondence. When somebody has a car accident, we ask, what caused it? We hardly ever ask about the causes, but we ask, what caused that car accident? We ask how it happened. How did the accident happen? Or how did this guy become a billionaire? How did this idiot become a millionaire? How is that possible? You know, how, which implies linear causality, linear cause and effect. People are intuitively aware that our world is governed in some mysterious way by cause and effect, that every action has a consequence, that for every action there's a reaction. However, in the bigger picture, there's more than just linear cause and effect. You can see this in that most things don't just have one cause, but multiple causes. Another way to say this is if there are numerous causes for something, or numerous reasons why something should happen, then it likely will happen. So I'll give you a few examples of why it's not accurate to only think in linear terms of A to B to C causality. I was recently coaching with a doctor who felt guilty because she forgot to check a certain item for one of her patients, for one of her seriously ill patients. And it was through her ignorance, actually, that she didn't check, because she didn't know she had to check. So it's beside the point, but she wasn't guilty in the first place. Nonetheless, she felt really guilty and asked if it might be her fault or if she's to blame if that patient's health declines and he eventually dies. And I explained to her that it's not quite that simple and straightforward. Okay? If the patient dies, who's the cause? What is the cause of his death? Is this doctor that forgot a little detail to blame? Or is it the fact that this patient led an unhealthy lifestyle for years? Maybe that's more of a cause. Or maybe he had a nagging wife for years, and that caused his illness. Or maybe it was a certain food he ate that caused his illness. Or maybe it was some bad chemicals in his surroundings that caused the illness. Or was it maybe just his time to die? Was his time up? Okay, in any case, he hasn't died yet, but it's not a simple A to B answer. Everything usually has multiple causes that all correspond to each other in a certain energy field. In other words, if this patient is in a certain energy field, in a certain attitude, in a certain vibration, he's going to attract various events. One of them might be a nagging wife, another one might be illness, another one might be, on top of that, incompetent doctors, okay? Or the superior of this doctor might be to blame, might also be incompetent. It's usually an entire field, an entire context, which attracts many multiple so-called causes. But these singular things aren't in and of themselves cause. As I say, all cause is non-physical. All cause is a certain field. An example along similar lines would be, let's say you go to the mall and you slip on the wet floor and you break something. You break your arm, okay? What's the cause of that? Well, you could say, legally, you might say it's the wet floor, or you might say it's the guy who was supposed to put up a sign, wet floor, who failed to do his job. Or you might say it's the taxi driver who went the wrong way, causing you to come late to the mall, causing you to slip on the floor because it had just been done. You could say it's caused by your bad shoes, which easily slip. You could say it's caused by your own unawareness. You could say it's caused by the mall manager himself who laid the wrong floors. So you can see it's nonsense. The physical causality, linear causality ideology that our word is built on is nonsense. It's not quite as set in stone and accurate as we think it is. Nonlinear causality acknowledges that there are seen influences and unseen influences involved in the things that happen. So the mind usually thinks that A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Okay, but in actuality and reality, according to me, the ABC, the entire field, is already present as a field, as an energy field. It's already present in the seed. I like to say failure and success are already present in the seed, in the initial idea, in the initial attitude, in the initial intention. And this ABC, okay, which is one thing, manifests itself in various A, B, C, D, E, F, G events on a timeline. Now, I know this sounds very abstract, but I'm going to make this very practical and usable for you. So once you've adjusted the essence, the seed of who you are, the general energy field of who you are, all kinds of corresponding A, B, C, D, E, F, G will show up spread out over a timeline. Okay? And as long as you're in a negative energy field, you're on a negative timeline with more negative A, B, C, D, E, F, G events coming up for you over the years. And if you're on this parallel universe time track, as I call it, then you've got other A, B, C, D, E, F, G events lined up, but all these are actually already present within the seed. Another way to say this is, I know it's an often used saying, but it's accurate. Every battle is won before it even begun. Every battle is won before it even begun. That is a very, very, very true statement. And anybody who deeply understands just this statement understands how reality works. Another way to say it is well begun is half done, if you want to do it without war vocabulary. Well begun is half done. And in fact, that's not even true. Well begun is completely done. Whether something's going to succeed or not, whether you're going to succeed or not, is already determined and decided right now in your energy field and your mental attitude. And by the way you feel today, you can pretty much predict and determine the things that are going to be happening in the next weeks and months. You know this is true when you look at certain people who fail in whatever they touch and other people who succeed in whatever they do. Okay, some people just fail and fail and fail and fail. Some succeed with whatever they touch, whatever they do. And it's funny, they might even be doing the same things. What's the difference? They're being, who they are being. Okay? You can't just go and look at a successful person and copy what they're doing and imitate how they dress and whatnot. That's totally beside the point. Even though a lot of motivational teachers or NLP teachers or whatnot say that, it doesn't work that way. That's not what it's about. It's not about what the people are doing or what they're saying. It's about who they are and who they believe they are, the seeds that they've set within. The success of your relationships, your health, your spirituality, your business, your career, your communications is determined by invisible factors, not by visible things. Invisible factors such as principles, values, beliefs, emotions. These are what set the blueprint for your later behaviors, actions, reactions, and even what you perceive as opportunities and what you don't perceive. Isn't it funny that I see opportunity everywhere I go? I see a benefit everywhere I go. That's because of who is seeing, who is looking. Okay, and who is looking is a very optimistic and confident and joyful guy, which I've become through knowledge of how it works. So you don't want to go after the external manifestations of success. That's not what to emulate. You got to go for the underlying principles and attitudes of success, which, by the way, have been the same for thousands of years. They haven't changed because they're universal. They're essence. That which is essence never changes. Everything changes all the time, but that which is true and essential never changes. That's why the rules of success that worked 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 100 years ago, will still work in 100, 200, 10,000 years. It's never going to change. And that's the beautiful thing. Once you understand how things work, once you grasp it, that can't be taken away from you. That's as if you've learned a language and that language is with you for good, and it seems easy to you. Within a particular energy field, things just happen spontaneously as part of that context. Okay? An example might be there's a river stream and there's fish swimming through the river stream, fish jumping up out of it and back down into it. And one fish is jumping here, another fish is jumping here. And that's just what fish do in the river stream. Okay? It's not that the river causes them to jump or that one fish causes the other to jump. That's what fish do. The causality has been set long, long before. That's what being in a river means. Being a fish in a river means. It means swimming around and jumping up and down. Okay? Another example, you plant a seed in soil and it grows and a plant grows. And if you're coming from linear causality, you'd say, well, what caused that? Was it the person planting the seed? Was it the seed? Was it the seed in the soil? Was it the soil? Was it the sun? Was it the rain? You see how ridiculous this cause and effect thing sounds. If you wouldn't have planted the seed, would it have fallen there itself and grown by itself? Well, of course. Okay? Trees grew long before people planted them. Yes, you can cause, in a way, a tree to grow, but even if you don't do that, trees are still going to grow. Why? Because the context of planet Earth allows for that. The right soil, the right weather, and the right seeds are already present. I mean, I know this sounds obvious and ridiculous, but the way many people live their lives, they seem not to get it, you know. Even science would agree that it's more a matter of correspondence and not causation, that there's certain correspondences within an already existing field. To make all of this more practical for you, I'd recommend that rather than asking only how something happened, you also ask why it happened. Asking how it happened keeps you stuck to physical, linear reality. Asking why it happened puts you directly in touch with spiritual, metaphysical reality. As if there's a why that it happened, not only a how. Because if you're living in a pan-deterministic universe, then there is no why. Then everything happens for no reason whatsoever. Then everything's just a coincidence. But deep in your heart, you know that's not true. That's why you're listening to this presentation. You know, the guy who had an accident, we ask how the accident happened. Well, the how of it is just the mechanics of it. Car A hit car B. That's how it happened. Okay, but that doesn't really give us any deeper insight. Even if you go a bit further to multiple causes, which is always better, was it that the kids in the car distracted him, that the light was malfunctioning, or that the other driver wasn't paying attention either, or that he wasn't paying attention, or that he was tired, or the streets were slippery, or what? Now, sure, for the purposes of law, it's good to have linear cause and effect, okay, so that we can hold people accountable for the overall energy field that accumulated in this bad event. Okay, but what you'll notice often is that things started long, long before the actual negative or positive event broke out. Long, long before that. And that's a part of the understanding of non-linear causality. You got to understand that once something finally manifests, it's the result of many chain reactions and many different influences, which all began in an inner stance, position, attitude, viewpoint, belief. Especially those of you who vibrate in a higher frequency or energy know that your thoughts manifest much more quickly, and you have to be much more careful of what you put out there. You're in a position of higher responsibility, so to speak. Whereas at a normal level of consciousness, it can take years before the negative or positive things you put out into the world eventually take their toll on you or surprise you in a positive way. Okay, so in general, for most of the people, it takes a while before something manifests. And that's why it's often difficult to find out what the originating thought was that led eventually to a certain event. Now, when you ask why something happened, you live in the assumption that the originating cause of everything lies a bit more deeply in the psychological, in the spiritual. And then you're looking beyond just the obvious and mechanical. Looking only at the linear and mechanical is going to get you confused. Okay, you'll start checking the brakes of the car and all kinds of stuff that are not actually related to what really happened from a higher viewpoint. To make all of this even more practical for you, I recommend that when you have a goal or an intention, you ask the why question, which is, why do you want it? Why do you have that goal? Why do you want it? As well as, why do you believe in it? Why can it come true? Why is it going to come true? And the more reasons you find why that is good, why you deserve it, why it's likely to come true, the more likely it's going to happen. Because your goals coming true have multiple causes, not just one cause. Okay? Usually, when I have a goal that I want to reach, I employ all kinds of methods from all kinds of viewpoints. From all kinds of different, I derive from all kinds of different energies that I focus on my goal. There's attitude, there's action, there's information, there's resources, there's unusual information, there's recommended information, there's this type of action, that type of action, there's acting as if, there's visualizing, there's affirmations, there's belief work, there's emotional clearing, there's massive action, there's breaking it up into little steps, and I don't really care which method it is. What's essential is not the technique or the method you use, but who's using it, the person's attitude. And if your attitude is, I'm going to get it, then you're going to get it. Okay? No matter how, no matter with which method or with which technique. People become so focused on techniques, and I teach. Actually, I teach a lot of these techniques, but these techniques that I teach, they're just tools. They don't replace the confidence and the authority of the person, the optimism, the joy of the person using them. I like to say that a bad workman blames his tools. Okay, and a good workman can use shoddy tools and still achieve his result. So it's not at all about the tools. Even I often don't use my tools. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't have to use my tools. I can also reach the goals that I want to reach, make the things true that I want to make them true without my tools. That's something essential to learn. It's not about the tools, it's about who is using them, who is the believer, who is the observer, who's the person. So eventually you got to take a stand and be who you really are. Have the courage to be who you are. Take a stand for your truth, your unique identity, your expression, and go for it. Whatever it is, just go for it. So as is the habit of the linear mind, it'll ask how this goal will be achieved, what one should do in order to achieve it, when it's going to be achieved, where it's going to be achieved. But in order to access the beingness in which your goal can manifest as reality, it would be smarter to ask why you want it and also why you believe it's going to come true. Okay, all this when, where, and how keeps you stuck on the idea that it's all about linear A to B physicality, which it is not at all. Okay? Another way to say this is no matter how much you succeeded last year, this year it could all be gone. And also, no matter how much you failed last year, this year it could all be different. You could go through your life, if you understand this, way at the top, all the way at the bottom, way at the top, all the way at the bottom. It's not a linear progression, really. The way your life goes is determined by today. Yesterday's success, yesterday's failure means nothing at all. And when you answer the why question, it'll be because of this, because of that, because of that, because of that. And in the word because, you have the biggest hint. Be cause, be source. You are the source of your reality. And it's going to come true just because you are cause. Being cause, being source, also involves that you become the source of what you want. So if you want more love and acknowledgement, become the source of that. Give it to others. If you want more health, help somebody else get healthy. If you want a job, help somebody else get a job. I mean that quite literally. It's one of my techniques. Okay? Be cause. Be the source of what you want. As well as finding many reasons, because reasons, why you're going to achieve your goal. Being cause also means being fully responsible for what happens to you. Not what happens to others, for what happens to you. Okay? When something bad happens to me, I first ask why, not who did it, or how, or who's to blame. I ask why. Why did this happen to me? I first look within myself and see if my vibration, my energy, contributed to what happened to me. And this instantly puts me in the seat of power. Okay? Because I'm not looking for something outside of myself to blame. Even more realistically speaking, nothing actually has a cause, or there's only one cause to everything. Okay? Whatever caused the universe to exist caused everything else. So everything that happens within this context was caused by only one thing, and everything that happens to you was caused by that one thing. That's the cause. There's only one cause.